Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving headfirst into something that sounds pretty techy, maybe a bit abstract, cloud computing.
Right.
But trust us, it's basically the invisible engine behind almost everything you do online.
Yeah, sending emails, streaming shows, even how you collaborate on work docs. It's everywhere.
It really is foundational. So our mission today is to unpack what the cloud actually is,
Uh-huh.
how it totally changed the game for, businesses, individuals,
Right.
and maybe uncover some surprising things about its impact you haven't thought about. Okay, let's unpack this.
And I think the best way to do that is to look at a really big real-world problem, a problem that cloud computing just elegantly solved.
Oh, okay. So understanding the before helps understand the after.
Exactly. You grasp the why behind it all. Makes it much clearer.
Okay, so let's get to it. The fundamental question. What is cloud computing? Like, in simple terms.
Okay, well, at its very core, cloud computing is about getting on-demand services over the internet.
On-demand services.
Yeah, emphasis on on-demand. You get what you need when you need it. And crucially, you don't have to manage the underlying infrastructure yourself.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like servers and stuff.
Exactly. Servers, storage, networks, databases, even software applications. It's all handled by someone else.
So you're essentially renting access.
You got it. Renting access to computing resources instead of buying and owning them.
Okay, that makes sense. So to really get why that's such a big deal, let's do that before picture you mentioned.
Let's do it.
Imagine you're starting a new business, a startup. Initially, maybe it's just you storing files on your laptop.
Simple enough?
But then, boom, your idea takes off. Suddenly you've got, say, 100 employees.
Right. And they all need access to the same data, same applications.
Yeah. So what happens then in the, let's call it the old way? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, it becomes a massive headache.
Right.
Quickly, you'd realize you need to buy a lot of hardware.
Like what kind of hardware?
We're talking external SSDs, tons of hard drives, maybe whole racks of servers, networking gear, just to store data and run basic operations.
Wow. And the cost?
Staggering. Huge upfront investment, sometimes millions, depending on the scale.
Just to get started, basically.
Just to get started. And then you need people. You'd have to hire and keep a dedicated tech team.
To manage all this equipment.
Yep. 24/7. Keeping it running, updating it, fixing it when it breaks.
And I guess planning for, well, disasters. What if something goes wrong, like data loss?
Oh, absolutely. Data recovery strategies become incredibly complex and expensive. You need backups, maybe even a whole separate disaster recovery site.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It really was. Plus, think about ongoing costs. Maintenance contracts, software licenses, and just the sheer electricity bill to power and cool all that gear.
And I bet a lot of that expensive equipment wasn't even being used all the time.
Exactly. That's a huge inefficiency. You buy for peak demand, but most of the time, maybe late at night or on weekends, those systems are just sitting there, underutilized.
But still costing money.
Still costing money. Burning cash. It was a major financial drain and, honestly, a huge distraction from what the business was actually supposed to be doing.
Okay, so that paints a pretty clear picture. Lots of cost, complexity, risk, headaches, basically.
Significant headaches, yes.
Yeah.
Big financial burden.
So introduce the aha moment.
Yeah.
What if? What if there was a service that could just handle all of that for you?
And that is the core idea of the cloud. Instead of you owning and managing all that physical stuff, you outsource it. You use a remote machine, or really a vast network of machines and systems,
Okay.
owned and maintained by someone else, a cloud provider. And they handle your data storage, your computing tasks, everything.
So they take on the responsibility for the maintenance, the
Um,
security.
All of it. The hardware, the updates, the security patches, managing the tech team, even handling disaster recovery costs. It's their problem, not yours.
And what does the user, the business, do?
You just pay a fee, usually a relatively nominal fee, especially compared to the old way. And typically, you pay only for the services you actually use.
Ah, the pay-as-you-go idea.
Exactly. That's fundamental. And the flexibility is key, too. You can customize things, scale up if you suddenly need more power, scale down if things are quiet.
So you're not paying for idle machines anymore.
Precisely. Pay for what you use when you use it.
What's the catch? Is there a catch?
Well, the main requirement, the key condition, is you need a reliable internet connection because you're accessing everything over the internet.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So who are these providers? The ones doing all the heavy lifting?
Well, there are some really big names you've probably heard of. Microsoft Azure,
Okay.
Amazon Web Services, or AWS, that's a huge one.
Right.
Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, Alibaba, those are sort of the giants, but there are many other companies offering cloud services too. It's a big ecosystem.
Got it. So let's zoom in on the benefits. What does this all mean for us, the users? You mentioned on-demand and pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, those are probably the headline benefits. On demand means you get access to resources like computing power or storage pretty much instantly when you need them.
No waiting weeks for servers to arrive and be set up.
Exactly. And the pay-as-you-go model, well, that just makes economic sense. You only pay for what you consume. Less usage means lower bills. More usage means higher bills. It scales naturally.
Super efficient.
And think about that reduced overhead we talked about. The cloud provider handles the security, the maintenance, the staffing costs. That takes a massive load off the user. Fewer headaches.
Yeah, removes a whole layer of complexity and cost.
Fundamentally.
So how widespread is this now? Where do we see the cloud in action? Let's talk impact. Businesses first.
Oh, for businesses and startups, it's dominant. I mean, the vast majority of their work, from data storage to running applications, relies heavily on cloud provider services now. It's almost the default way to operate.
Okay, what about more technical users, like programmers or coders? How does it change things for them?
That's another really interesting area. Think about, say, online coding test platforms or collaborative coding environments.
Wow.
They run on a cloud model. Before, if you were writing software, how well it ran often depended on your computer. You know, its processor, its memory.
Right, your local machine.
Yeah. But in the cloud model, like on these online platforms, your code's performance depends more on the internet connection and the platform's cloud services, not so much your own laptop specs.
So it levels the playing field a bit.
It really does. It democratizes access to powerful computing for development and testing.
What's fascinating here is how much this impacts your life, the listener's life, even if you don't actively think about it.
Absolutely.
Let's use that Google Photos example again. Walk us through that.
Perfect example. Okay, so before cloud storage was common, you saved photos directly to your phone's memory. Right.
Yeah, and you'd always run out of space.
Yeah.
Constantly deleting stuff.
Exactly. Constant storage anxiety. Now, with something like Google Photos, which is a cloud service, you take a photo, it gets uploaded, often automatically, to Google's servers, their cloud infrastructure.
So it's not really on my phone anymore. Or not just there.
It might be cached on your phone, but the primary copy, the accessible from anywhere copy, lives in the cloud. You can then see that photo on your tablet, your laptop, wherever, just by logging in.
Without filling up my phone's memory.
Precisely. Your device storage is freed up, but your data is still accessible anytime you have internet. That's the cloud working for you personally.
So pulling these examples together,
Yeah.
businesses, programmers, everyday folks like me with my photos.
Yeah.
The benefits seem pretty clear. It's significant cost reduction, right?
Definitely.
Getting rid of all those management headaches and expenses we talked about.
Yep, outsourcing the complexity.
And just ubiquitous access. Being able to get to your stuff, your services, from anywhere with the internet.
That convenience and accessibility is huge.
Okay, so let's recap the core takeaways here.
Yeah.
Cloud computing, it's clearly not just some tech buzzword flying around.
No, not at all.
It's a really fundamental shift. It empowers, well, everyone, businesses, individuals with these powerful services.
On demand, cost effective.
Yeah, and generally hassle-free access, all delivered over the internet. It solved those huge pre-cloud problems.
And enabled completely new ways of working and living.
Truly enabling new possibilities, leveling the playing field for innovation.
It really has. And, you know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay.
Think about what it really means for the future. The burden of owning and managing all this complex digital infrastructure, it's increasingly lifted.
Right, from individuals, from businesses.
Yeah. So what new innovations, what entirely new business models, maybe even new ways of thinking, new ways of collaborating, what might this fundamental shift unlock for you?
When the tools become almost universally accessible.
Exactly. Imagine the collective intelligence, the problem-solving power, when nearly infinite computing resources are available to basically anyone with an idea and an internet connection. What comes next?
That is a fantastic thought to leave everyone with. The democratizing power of the cloud indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into cloud computing.
My pleasure.
And we encourage you, as always, to keep exploring the fascinating